Hello, folks. Valerio here from Rock Metal Events, and today is a very special day because I'm with Mr. David Ellefson from Megadeth. Hi, David.
Hi, Valerio. How are you, my friend? Good to see you again.
Glad to see you again too. Yeah, I'm good. And so let's start with an overview on your brand new album, No Cover. So,
Hmm.
an artist is influenced by many records along the way. So,
Right.
I suppose it's not easy to choose a limited number of songs on such an ambitious album like No Cover. So, how did you choose the song end up in the album?
I just chose the ones that I really liked as I was growing up. I didn't go for like the hit songs. I didn't go for the ones that everyone would recognize. I just went for the ones that were personal to me, which is why I have things on there by Sweets, Bachman Turner Overdrive, early Queen, the early Def Leppard stuff, and even, something, Motorhead off of the Ace of Spades album, but not Ace of Spades, which would probably be kind of the typical one. So it
Yeah.
was fun to do kind of a deep dive and go into some cuts that probably not everybody recognizes. And if you're my age, a little older as a heavy metal, musician, or fan, you probably own some of these records yourself. So it's been fun to have some of my friends say like, "Oh wait, I know that song. I love that song." So it's been fun to pull some of these out of the deep tracks.
Yeah, so this song's probably made made up your style. For example, 70s song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So if people want to ask like, what are your influences? You know, there it is. That's
yeah,
what So because sometimes the things that influence us aren't just, I'm a fan of Steve Harris and Geddy Lee and Bob Daisley and
also.
Phil Lynott, of course, the great bass players, even Sting, Adam Clayton. I'm a fan of all kinds of different musicians, but I'm also a fan of Angus Young, Steve Priest, who is the singer, songwriter, bass player for Sweet, Nazareth. I'm as inspired by the artists and the bands themselves, not just the bass players.
Yeah. So, when did you get the idea for No Cover? How long did you take to develop and coordinate all the guests?
The idea happened pretty quickly. I had just come home from Nashville recording the new Megadeth album that we're working on right now. So this was almost a year ago. It was June of 2016. And we realized that the world was going to still be closed down for any touring. And so the idea to put out a new album of Ellefson original material would really just, it wouldn't be a good idea to do it without having some touring. So we quickly came up with the idea to do the covers. And within a couple of phone conversations, all of these songs were chosen, and we got to work recording them, which was a lot of fun just to go back and record, songs that, again, I hadn't even heard some of them in quite a few years myself. I just knew that, they were the inspirations for me. And so we got to work on it. We recorded it in about 6 weeks. It was pretty fast,
Pretty
actually,
fast.
and yeah, it was pretty fast. And the guests are all friends of mine and of my band members and stuff. So it was easy to to get to call Charlie Benante and Jason McMaster. We got some other cool people like getting Al Jorgensen involved. My friends from Tesla, Frank Cannon and Troy Lucetta was cool. Brandon, apologies on that. Brandon Yeagley is another one who was super cool to
So,
have involved. Yeah,
ex-members from Megadeth, from
yeah,
here.
Jimmy and Chuck Beeler, and so It was fun to just call all people of all kinds of backgrounds to be part of this one.
Awesome, awesome. I see a huge number of guesses, cool guesses. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And most of the band put up in your last album is Italian, and for me it was a honor to walk with you on stage. And Andy Martongelli is a great musician.
Yes.
It's a brother, but it's a really great musician. And how the collaboration started with him and the rest of the band?
Well, it's funny. We were on tour with Megadeth. I think 2016. We had just released Dystopia, and we were driving to your new hometown of Bologna.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a message from Cobra Page and her organization. They were looking for a guitar player, and so I asked Kiko. I said, "Hey, do you have any recommendations of anyone?" They needed somebody to tour Europe. And Kiko said, he goes, "Yeah, my friend Andy Martongelli would be great." So we actually asked Andy. Kiko messaged Andy, and Andy came to the show that night in Bologna. And I knew of Andy, but I'd never met him. So we met backstage that night. And you're right, Andy's a wonderful guy, has great energy, and of course is a fantastic musician. And so I made the introduction for Andy and Cobra Page, and he ended up joining Cobra's band for a couple years and toured with her. And then another couple years go by, and now Andy and I are friends and talking regularly on WhatsApp and things. And me and Frank Bello had our record Altitudes and Attitude ready to release, and we were going to tour Europe with Slash, and so I needed to put a band together. So I hit Andy an email and said, "Hey, would you be available?" And he was, and so that connected us again in that setting. And then as it came time to, I was doing a solo tour. A couple months later, actually, I was coming through Italy to do a solo bass story tour, which is kind of a storyteller designed evening with David Ellefson kind of thing.
Probably in 2018, if I'm not wrong.
I think so, 2018. Yeah, I think it was just a couple of months after we did the Slash tour.
Yeah.
So we, I hit Andy again. I said, "Hey, can you, I need a band when I'm in Milano." And so, of course, he puts a band together for me, and it just worked out perfectly. It was great. So, that, and quite honestly, that was the moment where I had a connection with Andy. That was really, in fact, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that may have actually happened first. The bass story tour, I think, might have happened first. So I called then I called Andy to put to work with me with the Slash tour, and I knew from the bass story thing that Andy just put a band together. He says, "I've got it covered. Just show up, bring your bass. I'll have everything covered." And that's when I met Paolo Caridi. I met Fabio, the vocalist. And then, of course, 2 years later or another year later, we do the More Life with Death tour, and I meet you, and we're on stage with KK Downing's show at KK's place and across Italy and Switzerland. Yeah, so that was a good tour actually, between the UK, Switzerland, all of Italy. We had some good times together.
I have the pass over here with me.
That's it. There it is. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great experience. And and with Alessio Garavello, you mixed the album on the studios of Alessio Garavello. So it's how the collaboration started with Alessio. It's probably
well, again, Alessio's part of Team Martongelli, right?
Yeah.
So and Team Andy becomes Team Team Ellefson. And I joke that the Italian music factory is, between Italy, Alessio's up in London, up by Wembley Stadium there. And I'm out here in Arizona. So between, all of our time zones,
Magical
we're making music literally 24 hours around the clock. We're making music. So it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I brought Andy in now to work on stuff with me and Jeff Scott Soto for the Ellefson Soto stuff that we're writing, and has really been a fun collaboration. We just pushed out Swords and Tequila.
Swords and Tequila.
Yeah, so it's really great. Andy and I are great friends. We've got a great collaboration, and again, Alessio is part of the team. And I think that's what a lot of this is, especially when you're in a pandemic, when things are shut down and you can't be in the room together making music. It's important to have these other people that you can collaborate with remotely, and I'm proud that I'm aligned well with the Italians, and you got to be in the room when we were writing Simple Truth, which right before we did the tour
in Milano.
Our singer said, "Hey, why don't we write a song tonight, or today before we start the tour?" And we did. We wrote Simple Truth, and that became something. So you've seen it firsthand on the stage. You've seen it in the creative process, in the rehearsal room, and now you see it, of course, remotely across a pandemic. We're still making records. The writing process for me can happen anywhere, anytime, and I think it's always about being ready for it. I keep my phone with me, my iPhone. I'm always putting lyrics in the notepad. I'm filming little riffs that I write, either here at home, on tour. I'll come up with something and I'll just film it real quick so I can remember it months later. And like you got to see, writing as a band in the room is fun because you've got the whole group there. You've got your sound, and certainly the capable skills of the musicians are right there in the room. So as the ideas come up, you can easily, put something together. And that doesn't happen with every band, by the way. I mean, I've been in a lot of groups where the writing in the room, or like we did just in a rehearsal room, doesn't always happen. I think with the Ellefson band, we have a sound that's very powerful. It's streamlined, while there's interesting musical passages. We're not too caught up in these, especially in the initial writing, with this sort of really intricate details. It's like, let's just get in here and just rock. You know what I mean? Like you saw Simple Truth. I was just kind of playing like a Dead Kennedys punk rock kind of thing,
Yes, the approach was like a punk rock or hard rock stuff, but with a modern sound, with the 2020 sound.
Yes, very much so. So I think that's one thing that helps. We're not sitting down trying to change the world with the next mind-blowing riff or any of these kind of things. And, to me, there's a time for that too. But in the Ellefson band, I think there's a kind of a fun, rowdy spirit that's in the room. And I think that we want to capture that as much as anything, because that spirit translates from the stage out to the audience, especially when an audience who knows me from Megadeth and other songs, and now I'm standing before them performing new Ellefson songs. I don't think these songs should be that complicated that the audience can't grab them right away. I love when you hear a song the first time and you're like, you got your beer, your drink or whatever, you're like, yeah, this is cool, man, yeah, so I think that's more the spirit of the Ellefson group. And Andy is a big part of that, just his likable nature and, of course, his skill level as a musician. We're able to take things simple, complex, or otherwise and make it listenable to the audience.
I think it's a perfect connection under this point of view, because from Ellefson band and Artemis, Andy's band, there's the same view to music and live. The live,
Yes.
it's basically the same. So it works great, I think.
Yeah.
And many artists are engaged in action for charity, and rock metal is also engaged in the same way. You have taken part of initiatives like Kids United, for example. Can you tell us about this experience?
Sure. I mean, I always get hit with various things. TJ Martell over the years, Make a Wish Foundation, all these different things. And then, in 2018, I started the David Ellefson Youth Music Foundation. And last year was a very productive year for us doing free music lessons with an initiative that we called Schools Out to give free music lessons from me and a bunch of my well-known, respected musician friends who took some time to donate some of their skills to giving music lessons to students around the world while the schools were shutting down during the pandemic. And then, yes, the song the track we did was called "Burn" by Deep Purple, and Andy asked me to be a part of it and recorded the bass. Which was really fun. I loved Roger Glover, a fantastic player, of course, producer. I mean, his involvement in things is so wide, and I love his bass playing. He's got a very aggressive sound. Yeah, very aggressive. So it's fun to dig into his tracks to recreate a performance. And then, and so many great musicians were part of that, and guys that I'm a fan of, guys younger than me, quite honestly, most of them, but I'm a fan of their bands, and it was fun to collaborate with them on something. Again, it just proved, Andy, when he asked me to get involved in things, the bar is very high. The quality of what he does is just fantastic. So, anytime Andy asks me for something, I always say yes. Just like he's done for me, and I do back to him, and that's just our friendship. And it's fun to work with other musicians. That charity song that we did, it's kind of like No Cover. You know what I mean? It's like you call all the friends in the neighborhood and get the party started. As the song shouted out loud by Kiss would say. Let's get going.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember Burn played for by so many artists. It's a great job.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you. The funny thing about it is the amount of solos between keyboard solos, guitar. So it's like when I was recording it, the solo section was like 5 minutes long. You know what I mean? It was like
it reminded
like
me. It reminded me. Where Stars from Ronnie James Dio and
yes, totally. Yeah,
from the idea.
It totally did. Yeah, it was very cool though. It was. I was just like, wow, there's going to be a lot of solos on here. And then when I watched it back, especially the keyboard stuff, was incredible. It's. I don't play with keyboard musicians in most of my bands. I have before, but not in most of my bands. Certainly not Megadeth, of course. So. It's interesting, and even as I record Ellefson band stuff and now Ellefson Soto, having keyboards introduced as a sort of, kind of anchoring things down, especially with power metal music, it's so important. So on that track with Burn, it was great to work with, some of the best in our field, in heavy metal. It's great.
Yeah, sounds great. So, you have recently published your first novel, The Sledge Chronicles Rockstar Hitman. How did the idea come about? Are you passionate about particular narrative genre, and you combine music and literary genre, or kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a music business kind of a how-to book published back in 1997 called Making Music Your Business. And then in 2013, I think, was when My Life with Death, my first actual memoir, published. And then I wrote a second memoir called More Life with Death, published in 2018. And, or 2019. And then this book came to me while I was actually on a bass story, done a solo tour in South America. Right after we finished the tour in Italy, I came home, grabbed a different suitcase, and went straight down to South America. And that literally right after we were playing together is when the idea came for the for the book, for the Rockstar Hitman book. And it was funny. I called Drew Fortier, my friend, because I knew he was working on this independent horror film called Dwellers that we're now putting out together. I always wanted to write fiction. I read fiction books when I'm traveling, everything. Lee Child, Dean Koontz, Patterson, all these guys, and Grisham, and all kind of the bigger writers. And so I always wanted to write something. I thought it would be fun, and the idea finally came to me. And I find it's rather than getting too far out and writing some crazy story. I figured, why not just start right here at home? You know what I mean? As with a musician, kid that wants to be a rock star, it's somewhat autobiographical and it's somewhat maybe a little bit of my own story in that part of it. But obviously it's very much a fictional story. And then to add the element that, once he signs his record contract and goes on tour, now he's under obligation to be a hitman while he's he gets to live the dream, but along with living the dream, it can also be a nightmare. Not too much unlike being in some bands, So I wanted to kind of try to find the reality and some of the humor around that. It all looks like it's the dream, but if people kind of knew what was happening behind the scenes, they'd be like, oh my God. I'll just stay home and listen to the music. I don't want to be in a band making the music.
Yeah, because it's important to write something very, very good. As Stephen King says, it's important in something you know very well.
Yeah. Well, the saying, look, everybody wants to be a rock star because they think it's easy money and girls and money and fame and all that kind of stuff. And until because you're a musician, until you've done it for a while and you realize it's a lot of hard work. It's as the saying goes, if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it. So we have a lot of rock stars now on Instagram and TikTok, but out in the real world, they're probably not so much. Yeah, it is very much.
A musician shows just the good looking of music, but there's a lot of problems. Like I remember I crashed my back studying 8 hours per day. I remember, or many problems with members of the band, out of money many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, rock and roll. It's fine because this is our biggest passion.
Yes.
And it's
that's the problem with it is it draws us back to the well for more because it's who we are, and I've certainly struggled with it. The older I've gotten, I have a family, I've raised kids. Probably the hardest part was when my kids were really young, in the late 80s or late 90s rather. My kids were very young and I'm having to leave to go on these big, huge world tours, and I wouldn't be able to see my family for weeks and months, and oh my God, it killed me. So it's interesting that I've made it through that now. My kids are grown up, and but I'm still doing the job that was the dream of a teenager, being a rock star. You know what I mean? It's like being a fireman or a policeman. It all sounds good when you're 8 or 9 years old, and then the reality of doing the job, you could die, and it's a whole other thing. And so it's interesting, to still be a musical artist, performer all these years later. And I'm blessed, believe me, I am not complaining at all, because I can't think of anything else to do. So this is why I still keep doing this. every day I wake up and I grab a guitar, a bass, I write a song. This is what I do. You hit me, hey, you want to do an interview? This is what we do. So I'm not complaining at all. But it's interesting because it really is, it's the dream of a kid. I'll go be a rock star. That'll be fun. I won't have to answer to everybody and anybody, and everyone will kiss my ass, and I'll be rich and I'll live on the hill, and but you're right. Then you get in the reality of what it is. But I think that's the thing is if you're a musician like we are, like probably a lot of the viewers, it's a labor of love for us. If you're just there for the rewards, there's probably a lot of other things you can do to get the same rewards. Again, go be a TikTok star.
Well,
go do something.
The best thing, music. I understand through the years that's the make songs. Make songs is the thing that's satisfying more than whatever.
100%. 100%. I mean, that's you hit it right on the head. That's exactly what it is. I mean,
it's like writing a diary. It's like writing the diary of your life, writing songs, I think.
Yes. And when we hit on things that really get us excited, and we can't wait to share it to our friend and say, hey, do you want to work on this together? And then we finally get to that moment where we put it out for the public to hear it. I 100%. That's exactly what it is. It's about that feeling, that moment. And if you're a creative person, whatever it is, whatever your job is that fulfills you, when you tap that and it gets you excited, now that's why you do it. It's because it's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. It's like last night I was sitting here literally writing lyrics right up until my eyes couldn't stay open, and finishing up some lyric stuff, and that's when the ideas come on you. You don't get to just go to sleep. You know what I mean? It's like the ideas in your head, and you have to keep going until you're satisfied with a stopping point, and it's the same with writing songs, whether it's 7 a.m., 7 p.m., whenever it is, then when it hits you, you have to go with it.
Even in the night, the inspiration comes up. Even in the
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
The whole world of music is weakened by this very difficult year due to COVID. But in America, vaccination are continuing very quickly. So can you see a glimmer of light to resumption of live music?
I can. I mean, it's funny. I'm got fully vaccinated here in the U.S. A lot of my friends have. I think it's one of these things that, look, life isn't going to be, livable, really, at least like we knew it, until this pandemic goes away. And it doesn't seem like it's going to go away. I mean, our first attempt here is to vaccinate everybody. If we can get vaccinated, history shows polio and measles and these things, they go away. It doesn't just happen in a weekend. It takes a while. Here in America, we seem to be doing pretty good with the vaccinations. The concerts are starting to be announced. Things look like they're starting to open up. We're going to at least try it. So we're lucky, I guess, over here that we're able to make that happen. Sadly, I think the tours and a lot of the big music stuff that I would have been participating in over in Europe is not going to happen this year. I had some dates for Japan and Australia, some solo dates that I've now had to, push back to 2022. And, so yeah, look, we're figuring it out. I mean, it's a different world. But, again, like we talked about, our desire to write a song, our desire to perform, our desire from our fans to come and be part of the experience, that hasn't gone away, and it's never going to go away, So, yeah, my friend said to me, hope dies last. So as long as there's hope, you know, there's a chance that you know that we live to fight another day. You know?
Yeah. And what can you tell us about the new Megadeth album? It's been repeated several times that it will be an aggressive and technical album. Do you know details such title or indicative period of a release date?
No release date yet, and that's because it doesn't make sense to release it until we're really ready to go out and tour and support it. So
Yeah.
we do have a little bit of luxury of time on our side right now, which we've taken advantage of that to make this record really, really amazing. Yeah, it is very technical. It's a very progressive record, but you know, as any Megadeth record, it's going to include a little bit of everything. You know, kind of like Dystopia. You know, Dystopia had everything from Conquer or Die, Poisonous Shadows, to Fatal Illusion, to Dystopia. I mean, it had a very wide variety of music because that's who Megadeth is now. You know, Megadeth isn't just a one-trick pony. Never was. You know, our sound is pretty wide for being called a thrash band. We're pretty musical and we're pretty wide in what we do. So. You know, but that's about all I can say about it until it comes out. You know, people hear it and then they'll have their own opinion about it. But
Yeah.
it's you know, we've definitely been working hard at it, and you know, so it's done when it's done, and it'll come out when the world is finally ready to let it come out and be supported.
Okay. Okay. So, David, thank you so much for your time, and for me and all the stuff for rock metal events.
You're
Very
welcome.
great honor for us, and hope to see you again soon
Yes.
in person.
Say hello to all the friends over in Italy. So thank you very much, Valerio. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, too,
All right.
David. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Ciao.
Ciao.